Okay,
So,
it's on.
all right. The other thing that I wanted to let you guys know, aside from the brochure, up here, up front, we've got kind of a basic sign-up sheet. If you'd like to get more information about what the trip's going to entail, beyond what you're going to find in the brochure and beyond what I tell you, after the presentation, we'll get your name, number. I think I got most of your numbers, honestly, probably. But just for the sake of ease, name, number, email, and we'll cover our bases, dot our I's, cross our T's, all that fun stuff. No, if anybody else want one, you can always grab one later if you'd like. But this will tell you about what the itinerary of the trip is. It'll give you the cost, which is on the front. And just so you guys know, the cost of $3,268, that is all inclusive except for one domestic flight to get you to New York, and then also your meals for just lunch. You're going to have breakfast and dinner taken care of every single day, buffets. They're very good. You'll be staying in nice 4- and 5-star hotels. Internet access, so you can send texts and stuff if you're on like an iPhone. But letting you guys know you'll have some access to technology, you'll be well taken care of, and I can get into more specifics about that after the presentation. The presentation itself, I'm trying to make good on the promise I made to you guys about 10 months ago when I told you I was going on this trip, and I wanted to share some of my experience with you. But of course, promptly after I got back, I was told I was being reappointed, and immediately Rebecca and I had to prepare to move to a foreign place, the country of Southern Illinois, where we don't pronounce any of the city names correctly. It's not Vienna, it's Vienna and Caro. So yeah, we're getting used to that. This is everything you're going to see here, just about, except for like this one. These are photos that I took while I was in Israel. Some are good, some are a little shaky. Most of them are okay. And so this is just pictures from my trip, and I wanted to share them all with you because you all invested in me as your pastor when I was at McDowell, and now it's fun because I don't have to be your pastor anymore. I get to be your friend. So we get to have fun, and I want to show you guys a little bit of my journey here. Also, just about everything you see in this presentation, you'll get to do on our trip. The trip that I'm planning for the Holy Land next November is almost a carbon copy of this trip, of the trip that I just went on. So it should be a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun for me, except for the 2 days when I got sick, but that was my own fault. So I called this In His Steps, the Life and Ministry of Jesus in Palestine. Here's a map of Israel, and you can see it's a little convoluted. There's a lot going on there. And periodically throughout the presentation, I'm going to pull you back to this map, and I'm going to show you exactly where at in Israel these things are taking place. Can everybody see okay, by the way? I'm going to try and stay out of your way. So we'll go ahead and move on, and we'll start this. So the first part of this presentation, there's going to be 3. But the first part of the presentation, we're going to talk about the birth and beginnings of Jesus and his ministry. So we're going to look at Bethlehem, and we're going to look at the Essene community near the Dead Sea. So we're back to this map. We're going to see these little green circles and ovals. I did that today to help you guys see kind of where we're going to be talking about. Bethlehem and the Dead Sea region is actually in a place called the West Bank, which is Palestinian controlled. Palestine is recognized somewhat and is somewhat recognized as its own unique country apart from Israel. A lot of other countries don't consider Palestine its own country. And so Bethlehem is actually in the area called the West Bank and is part of the Palestinian territories. And when you go the 6 miles between Bethlehem and Jerusalem, you actually have to cross something that's like an international border. It seems strange, but it's really, that's how it is. You go through a checkpoint. So we're going to start in Bethlehem, and we'll go over to the Dead Sea after that. Get you right into it. This is a close-up of somebody's hand and their cell phone. This is a little shrine. This is where Jesus was born. This is in actually a place called the Church of the Nativity, which is in Bethlehem. And it's in the undercroft of the cathedral there. And that's got a little shrine, and that's the place where they believe Jesus was born. And this is probably a good time to go ahead and mention, when we're talking about sites where things happened in the Bible, there are 2 types. There's a traditional site, meaning that people think this might be where this happened, and then there are bona fide definite sites. And those are fewer and further between. There aren't very many places that we know for certain, Jesus did something or this happened, but there are a few of those. A lot of these sites are going to be traditional sites. We think so, we have reason to believe, but scholars aren't exactly sure. This is a traditional site, but this is where scholars tend to believe Jesus was born. So we'll keep moving through here. There's just kind of another little shrine there down in the undercroft of the little baby Jesus. This is a tunnel in the undercroft. When we went to tour this site, the Church of the Nativity, our tour guide, it was like almost closing time where they're trying to shut things down. So this guy's running around with his umbrella. He's like, come, we have to go, okay. And now this is where they were born right here. This is Jesus, and there he's like the shepherds, yes, they're singing, and over here, okay. And he said, okay. And he was like, snap your picture and go. We gotta go. We got places to be. And he's like this little man running around. He's like, okay, keep up with him. And then he's running around. He said, oh, stop. He's like, okay. And now we're going to sing. You know the song Silent Night. We're going to sing Silent Night. Silent. We're like, oh, okay. I guess we're singing now. He was hilarious. So we're in this undercroft, and our voices are echoing. And I had to take a picture of that moment so I could remember it. But that's him with the little umbrella there moving us through. And this is the church itself, and the church dates to about 300 or 400, so about 300 or 400 years after Jesus was born. So it's an old church, old church. This is the tomb, also in this church, of Saint Jerome. So Saint Hieronymi, it says presbyter and doctor of the church. You see that little symbol in the upper left-hand corner? Anybody wanted to try and decipher that? Alpha and Omega, yeah, an early Christian symbol there. And Saint Jerome was an early church leader, probably around the third or fourth century, and he's buried here at the Church of the Nativity. We're going to move out to the Dead Sea Valley, which is a place we think John the Baptist liked to hang out. You guys remember John the Baptist, right? Walks around, he's wearing this like crazy itchy clothing, and he's eating locust and wild honey. And oh yes, he's also baptizing a lot of people. When you get to Israel, one of the things Dr. Luker will tell you is there isn't a Judaism. There are Judaisms. Kind of like how we have denominations. That's probably the best way to put it. There are different sects within Judaism. You have in the Bible we know of them, the Sadducees, right? The Pharisees you've probably heard of. And the Essenes were also a sect within Judaism, and they lived out in the desert. They were children of the sand, and they lived out in the desert in the Dead Sea valleys. And this little cave right here, if you've ever heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls, that's the cave where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found back in 1947. And they were actually found when a 12-year-old boy was messing around with a friend, hanging out in the caves, and they threw a rock into this cave, and they heard a bing. And in Israel, there's among some of the Bedouin people who live out in the deserts, they believe in jinns or spirits that live in these caves, and they thought that they had released one of these spirits, and so they ran hot-tailed down there, like, we're getting out of here, we're not going to play a game with these guys. And after they kind of settled down, they decided to go back a little bit later and found what happened is that rock they'd thrown had busted open a jar, that was the ping, and it had ricocheted, and inside of this jar were all of these scrolls. If you watch the History Channel a lot, the History Channel like to make the Dead Sea Scrolls out to be, it's the hidden Bible that nobody knew about. Actually, most of these scrolls were almost word-for-word copies of like the book of Isaiah that you see in the Old Testament written in Hebrew, which was also awesome, but they also had like rules for cleanliness and order in the Essene community. And they were basically the rule book. If you're going to be part of this community, this is how you conduct yourself. And that's a big part of what the Dead Sea Scrolls actually were. We'll keep scrolling through, and I don't want to linger a lot, but the Essenes were people, they were Jewish, and so they were very concerned with ritual purity. And they bathed themselves every single day. Usually before meals, they would strip naked and walk down these steps into a pool, and they would immerse themselves and come right back out, and they're now clean, and they'll re-robe, and they're ready to eat. It wasn't only just a spiritual thing of being cleansed from your sins, it's also, I'm not dirty, and I can eat with my hands, and it's good. It's not gross.
So there's water at the bottom
Not anymore, but there would have been, yeah. And so this is just another angle there. Yeah, get in. Well, you know, if it was during the rainy season, so there could have been water down there, Gary. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and keep moving here. By the way, hello, Harold. Glad you're joining us. We miss you. And this is also, you can almost see there's like a divide here. People would actually go down one side, come back out the other. So it makes it a little easier to see how that would have been. Keep moving. This is my roommate, Unki, when I was on the trip. He is built like a rock. He's a bodybuilder. And then there's Austin. They are wearing my clothes. Their luggage did not make it to the Holy Land at the right time. That's why my wife, as you know, very always prepared, packed like 7 days worth of clothing in my carry-on. And so I actually clothed the naked while I was on. Yeah, so, and yeah, I clothed them. This is the Dead Sea, beautiful view, and actually I think the next few ones are of the Dead Sea. And what you can see here, yeah, this is where I want you to stop. In Jesus' day, the Dead Sea would have covered about all of this. Would have really come up there. There's been a lot of erosion there. The Dead Sea is very salty, but there's also been a lot of erosion over the years, and so it's receding. And the view you're seeing is actually from a fortress called Masada. It was Herod's fortress. Herod built this thing, and if you remember from Christmas time, Herod had a little bit of an ego issue. He always wanted to be number one, didn't like this king of the Jews thing going on, tried to murder Jesus, and so he murdered a bunch of children instead. Well, he built a massive fortress called Masada on out just beside the Dead Sea, and he had these spectacular views and everything. So you will get to see Masada if you go on this trip, and you don't have to walk the snake path, which is what